Hi, it's Aenslee Tanner here again. Can you believe I'm almost done with my January challenge, getting these Facebook Live videos done? So I've got about a week left, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about professional and personal development. It's something that's obviously key to my career, and something I invest a lot in. And I've got a couple things that I wanted to say about why I invest so much in personal and professional development. And also I thought I'd take you on a little whirlwind tour of some of the things that I'm learning right now or have learned. I'm in the process of learning over the past year or so. So I think that'll be fun, hopefully, and insightful for you, and give you a little, a few different insights into things that might be valuable for you too. So first of all, I want to just say a word to why I invest so much in my personal and professional development. So first of all, I think there's a professional obligation. Working as a leadership coach, for me to be walking the talk, as it were, role modeling for my clients. I don't feel like I could ethically ask my clients to do the work that I'm working with them on if I wasn't doing the same myself. So I'm constantly working with I have supervisors, my coaching practice. I work with mentors. I have a peer supervision group. I have, I do trainings. I work with coaches privately for myself. I read a heck of a lot. You can see from the bookshelf behind me. So constantly doing online courses, in-person courses, different things like this. So professional development can come in all sorts of forms. But I think I have a professional responsibility to do that because of my profession. So that's one thing. But I think also too, from a personal standpoint, investing in myself is something nobody can ever take away from me. So that's how I look at it. So the things that I learn, the seeds that get planted through each book that I read or each course that I do or each coach that I work with, these things take my life kind of down a different trajectory, right? Like if you think about, being on a certain path, without any intervention, and then each course that you do or each book that you read kind of tilts your course just a little bit differently. And, over time that adds up, right? So the gap becomes bigger and bigger from where you would have been without that intervention or that information or that growth and development versus where you can be. It's kind of like the difference between, if you don't negotiate your salary and how much you end up earning later in life or how much you have saved for retirement versus if you negotiate early on in your career and just get a few thousand more, right? That first time you negotiate. Well, over time, that base salary that you're negotiating from at each point, each job change that you do is going to be bigger. So you're going to end up a lot better off, when you go to retire later on down the road because you took those small steps all the way, right? So, and I view development that way too. So, and when I say I invest a lot, so the rule of thumb that I heard a while back was about 10% of your income should go towards your personal growth. I spend a bit more than that, but like I say, I think I also have a professional obligation because of the field that I'm in. So you can take that for what it's worth. Now, I also find it interesting. The majority of my income that I make through my businesses comes from clients who work one-on-one with me through coaching or personal branding. Now, not everybody can work with me at the price point of what it costs to work one-on-one. And I understand that. And I, as part of my commitment to give back to more people, I have other means of doing that. So I create all the content basically that I create online. I give away for free. All the videos, the advice, the blog posts, things like that, resource sheets. I give those away for free. So anybody who's out there who might benefit from it is free to take it and use it in their own life. I also do about once a year, a series like I'm doing now at the beginning of the year of free events to my local community. So I'm based here in Auckland, New Zealand at the moment. So I'm running over the next couple of months free events to the public where people can come in person and work with me. And those are largely free, though I'm running a new program as a part of that, which is a mentoring program, a 4-session mentoring program, career mentoring. And I'm experimenting this time. I put a $25 price tag on it. Now, the reason I did that was for a couple of reasons. It's an experiment. I'd heard from the community that mentoring is something that is not widely available, and that people wanted this. So I feel like I'm clear that there is a need for this, there is a desire. And I wanted to put a little price on it to get the commitment from people to show up for all the sessions, because part of the benefit of this is working together as a group. So I want that group commitment as we go along. And also just to cover my base costs for the printouts and things that I'm going to be producing to come along. So I'm not making any money back on my time, but just a little price tag to get the commitment and to cover the cost of just the expenses for this this mentoring program. Now, I've had a great turnout at the free events that I've run, but interestingly, this mentoring program, which again I've decided to experiment with running this year because of the feedback I'd heard from the local community, I put this little price tag on it, $25. And you want to guess how many people have signed up? It's starting today. This evening is going to be the first session. A handful, just a handful. And that really surprised me, because if you're not worth, if your career's not worth investing $25 in, or you don't think you're worth investing $25 in to improve your chances of, successfully negotiating a job contract you have coming up, or to get support for updating your LinkedIn or your resume or CV for a job a career change that you want to make this year, or whatever it might be, preparing for promotion or dealing with some conflict at work. If you're not worth investing $25 in to get customized support for that, then gosh, I have to wonder, like, where else are you holding yourself back? Because to me, it's just a no-brainer, but it's just interesting to see the dynamics when you add a little a price to something, how much people shy away sometimes from that personal and professional development side of things. Very interesting. I'm fascinated to see how this plays out. I'm going to show up anyway. I will give my all to this handful of people, but it's just fascinating. So like I say, this is something I invest a lot in. I think another thing that's really motivates me around what I want to develop myself is this idea of behavioral flexibility. I don't know if that's a term you've heard of before, but behavioral flexibility, I think I first came across in neurolinguistic programming, maybe context, but this idea that we're always operating in systems, right? We're never in isolation as individuals, right? We have our family systems, our work systems, our community systems, right? We're a part of many different kinds of systems in our life. And this idea of behavioral flexibility kicks in with the power of influence when you're thinking about how you can instigate change and create the kinds of outcomes you want in your life. The way it works is that the person with the most behavioral flexibility, the most control over how they show up and how they can regulate their emotions and these kinds of things, is the person who will most influence the system. The person with the most behavioral flexibility is the one who controls the system. Okay, so and this kind of comes back to the idea of how powerful it can be to role model, right? You yourself can be an intervention just by shifting yourself, right? Going into a situation, everything else in the system could stay the same. Other people could be reacting the way that they always do. But if you come into that system and you're able to modify how you behave, that alone is enough to get a shift in the system to create a different outcome, a different result, right? So this just, that I find really motivating, right? That you don't need to rely on anybody else changing, anybody else doing anything proactive in terms of working on themselves, but that you, by working on yourself, can be the vessel that instigates change. So I absolutely love that. I hope that's motivating for you too. So that idea of behavioral flexibility and just working to continually enhance that in myself is something I'm committed to. So I promised I would share some of the key takeaways from some of the personal and professional development I've been doing recently. And just in line with like doing these Facebook live videos and working on my public speaking in an online format, I did a speaking course maybe about a year ago now with a woman called Amanda Fleming. Her course was called Essentially Speaking, and this transforms the way that I look at speaking, because speaking in front of groups is not my strong suit. My top strength from StrengthsFinder is individualization. So I'm much more attuned to working one-on-one with people. It's where my strengths lie, but I didn't want to be held back I didn't want it to be a limitation or an option I didn't have available to me to, take advantage of speaking, at conferences, in front of groups, getting the chance to speak to more people. So I did her course. I decided to invest in that, even though it was uncomfortable for me to, stand up and put myself out there. And one of the key things that just transformed things for me that I took away from her course was this idea that as a speaker, all you have to offer is who you are. And I think what I had been going into these speaking engagements prior to working with Amanda was I thought I had to kind of put on a mask, that I had to be something better than what I was or what I am. And hearing that from her, that all I have to offer as a speaker is who I am, just completely kind of melted that away, this idea that I need to put up a mask. She talked about, any mask you're putting on, any, fake confidence or something that you're trying to portray is putting a barrier between you and the audience. And, that's inhibiting the how much your message is getting through. And so I'm much more able now to just show up in front of a group without this feeling that I need to be something else, a more confident version, a more eloquent version, a more whatever version of myself, and just say, this is what I have to offer right now. This is me. And it will resonate with some people and it won't with others. And that's okay. So that idea that all you have to offer is who you are. The medium is the message, and just showing up with no facade, with no pretense, or not pretending to be anything else other than what I'm able to bring right now into this this speaking engagement. So that was awesome. I also did Amanda's, she has an online year-long course called The Accelerator, which I also did last year. I told you we do a lot of courses, and that was also very good. So it's something you can check out if you're interested in learning from her. Another really impactful personal development it was a course that I did, a bit of coaching accompanied it, but it was a course run by Jenny Devine, who's an executive coach here in New Zealand, who trained under Debbie Ford. Actually, Jenny ran a workshop on shadows and masks, so kind of the Jungian psychology of the shadows that we all hide and the masks we all wear. And I found I got a lot of gold out of this one, and I thought I'd just share with you a little bit what this concept is all about. So this shadow side of our personalities that we all have is the side of us that we'd rather not be, is how Jenny talks about it. And the masks are what we want others to see us as, and that's what we put on. So the point of doing this kind of shadow and mask work is to really take the reins back from our ego and give ourselves the choice about whether or not we put those masks on or put those certain sides of ourselves in shadow, really doing the work to acknowledge that we all have both light and dark inside of us, and working to release some of those feelings of shame or guilt around some of the things that we've been suppressing. So to get a little bit personal, one of the shadows that I identified for myself during this work was laziness. That a lot of the drive that I demonstrate, particularly in my career, is a mask. There's a mask side to it, that it's trying to cover up that fear I have of being perceived as lazy, right? So where that comes from is, childhood influences, familial influences, things like this. But that had just been ingrained in me, and it made me very driven, very successful career woman. But being able to do the work with Jenny, to identify what the dynamic was that was going on inside me, to work on accepting that, yes, I have a whole spectrum from driven to lazy all inside of me, and it's okay to really be okay with all those parts of me, just brings such a sense of inner peace. Absolutely transformative. So that was really, really a key takeaway, to acknowledge that we all have light and dark inside of us. And as long as we're suppressing that dark and not able to acknowledge that it exists within us, then we're holding ourselves back, right? That it's going to rear its ugly head, right? We're going to be triggered by something. One of the ways or you can identify that you've got a shadow situation going on is often when we get triggered by somebody emotionally, right? If we see somebody who's doing something and it just pisses us off, right? That could be a sign that we're projecting our resistance for something that we consider dark within ourselves, right? So, if I was to see a person being lazy, that would really kind of, why aren't they pulling their weight? Like that would have gotten much more under my skin in the past. And doing this work has really helped me to be much more even keel around some of those things that would have triggered me previously. So that shadow and mask work was fantastic. And just this idea of this dial, right? You can choose, do I want to be up at the driven side, or do I want to turn the dial down and be a little bit more chill, right? And taking the reins back from ego, being able to decide actually which number on the dial we're going to be at, just gives you back some control, gives you back some choice. You have more options available to you, right? You're accessing more of yourself. Again, coming back to that behavioral flexibility part. You just have more options. So the next thing I think I'd like to share is, I've already shared this book, but it's all about adult development. It's a little bit more of a professional interest of mine, but Jennifer Garvey Berger, Robert Keegan, Carolyn Coughlin, these are some of the folks I've been learning from all about this concept of adult development. And this is really changing things for me in the coaching space with how I work with individuals, because what it's done is just give me a framework for what adult development looks like, right? We're so used to thinking about, when kids develop, there's a physical growth that happens to it, so it's quite visible. And there's been a lot of research around childhood stages of development, so it's quite well understood how kids learn and grow. But then we reach this place of adulthood, and then it's kind of like, from the childhood growth, it's kind of like adults. And I think there's just like a general perspective in society today that we just kind of plateau, and it's just, you've become an adult. It's just the same, for kind of like the rest of your life, you're going to be an adult. And what this adult development theory has added is a lot more color to my understanding of actually what does it mean to develop as an adult. And so while the changes might not be as visible physically, there are still things going on in the brain that are shifting. And particularly when it comes to adult development, the way we make meaning of things, right? So it's not just what you know, it's how you know what you know, right? And the story that you are wrapping around things, how the filters you're using. And the adult development model has 5 different stages. And it's estimated that about 70% of the adult population, it only ever really gets to level 3. So levels 4 and 5 are only quite small percentages of the population that get there, but that potential is there. And the authors of books, Jennifer Garvey Berger, Robert Keegan, Carolyn Coughlin, they make the argument that actually with the fast pace of change today, the increasing complexity, the greater diversity, greater globalization, et cetera, that actually we need to be at those levels 4 and 5 in order to come up with the solutions that are going to help solve the problems we've created at these other levels. So absolutely fascinating stuff. A key takeaway for you is just the importance when it comes to developing yourself through these levels of being able to take multiple perspectives. So if Jennifer and Carolyn in the course that I took talked a lot about, be wary when you feel certain. If you feel certain of something, that's an indication you might need to check yourself. One of the most powerful questions they asked in that course I found was, how might you be wrong about that? We're so used to, I think, trying to prove how right we are, right? Arguing our point of view, that it was, wow, just eye-opening to have them ask that question, how might you be wrong? Just opens up a whole new world of possibility, stretches your thinking to places that I think certainly for me, and I think for a lot of us, we're not used to going, right? We're so used to trying to provide the evidence to argue our point and to consider, no, wait, can you please argue how you might be wrong? What a stretch mentally. And just wonderful for expanding one's ability to be able to take different perspectives. How many perspectives can you hold? You know, if I'm right and you're wrong and there's no space for anything else, I'm missing a lot of nuance in the situation, right? And so they talk about allowing space for gray. There's a whole spectrum of gray in between that black and white, and how many of those perspectives can you actually hold up and, you know, really look at and consider all the pros and cons of, right? So that was a key takeaway from the adult development side, which is something I'm integrating a lot into the coaching work I'm doing with folks to help them handle greater complexity in their own work environments and lives. Now, a really recent role model, I'll say, that I've come across is Diane Musher Hamilton of 10 Directions. I just did a webinar of hers for the first time this morning. She delivered a masterclass called #MeToo on perspectives, listening, and risk-taking. And when I originally had read her original blog post of the same name, if you wanted to look it up, I was just really struck by her ability to hold so many different perspectives. And I thought, wow, okay, this is somebody I want to learn from. I think a lot in terms of my own development about who I'm putting myself into contact with, who are my role models, who are the people that have something that I feel like, there's something I need to learn there. And in Diane, I immediately saw a master facilitator, somebody who has, you know, decades of mediation experience, and just her ability to, as she calls it, be for everyone in the room. You know, when she's in a mediation situation, you know, even if somebody has vastly different values to her, you know, that capacity she's cultivated in herself to be able to be there for them and to support their expression of their viewpoints equally to somebody else across the table. Just skillful, masterful. So I attended that masterclass, which I believe is going to be available for sale on their website later, if that's something of interest to you. But this is just an example I wanted to share. It's totally new, fresh learning for me, but I seized the opportunity to learn from somebody I admired. Just to hear more about how she thinks, to have the chance to observe her in action was a great learning experience for me. And I think it's, you know, it reminds me of the Jim Rohn quote, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You know, I don't think anymore in terms of my mentors or my people needing to be even people that know me personally, that I have an intimate relationship with. I have mentors around the world who don't even know I exist, right? Tim Ferriss is an example, you know, somebody I admire for his own commitment to his continuous growth and development. Amazing man. And I observed him on, right after one of his recent books came out, The Tools of Titans. He did a talk on Creative Live. There's an online learning platform that you can access if you're interested. And one of the things he said in that talk was about, he has a mantra for himself where he says, I am unrushed. And that's his way of going about his business each day in a very steady kind of a way, you know, without freaking out and getting frantic. And as somebody who's struggled historically with managing stress, you know, being a very driven person, that was hearing him talk about his own ways of managing himself was a key takeaway that I was like, that's immediately relevant to me. I'm going to take that on board. He shared a insight from, I think, someone in the Marines that he had interviewed in the US military in some capacity. And he had said they had a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And that was immediately something I took on board for this year. Something I want to commit to in terms of helping to manage my stress levels is, look, this is a long-term game, right? One's career. And so I don't need to be going in 5th gear all the time. 3rd gear is absolutely fine. And allow me to be slow and steady. And just remember, I'm in it for the long haul, right? And by being smooth, that will be the faster pace, the pace that keeps my health and my well-being and my relationships and everything where I want them to be on this journey. It's not just all about the one thing and all about career, right? So yeah, so if I could leave you with anything to kind of wrap up this whirlwind tour through some of the key things I've been learning recently, it would be, surround yourself with people that you admire, that you look up to, that can serve as mentors. Even if you don't know them personally, you can still get valuable lessons from that. I think, being with people who help you become a bigger version of yourself, a better version of yourself, this is important, because it's going to affect who you are in the world, what you are like to be around, for the people that you do come into contact with personally. And you will create a ripple effect, yeah, positive or negative. So I think it's something absolutely worth investing in yourself, recognizing the impact, the power that you actually have to impact people around you. One final quote before I wrap it up. Leo Tolstoy has said, just about everyone thinks of changing the world, but almost no one thinks of changing himself. I think it's sadly true. And something that we really need to create a mind shift around, because we are all role models for somebody. There's plenty of research around, if even people witnessing a random act of kindness, there's a ripple effect, right? For how many other people go on to do something kind to other people, right? You're more powerful maybe than you think. And so to really, take investing in yourself seriously, make sure you surround yourself with the best, the folks that are lifting you up, that are making you a bigger, better version of yourself. You're worth it. Yeah. So I will leave you with that. Sorry, it was a bit of a long one today, but I hope you found it inspiring, insightful, that it's giving you some more resources that maybe you can pursue if there's anything that piques your interest. And I'll be back here with another video again for you soon. Bye, guys.